It's Sandy Bacus here, Sandy B. Stitcher. I'm here to do my book review for the month of April. If you watched my latest cross-stitching video, you'll know that I got a new laptop and was having major problems with the picture. So I'm trying to do this on a Windows tablet, and we'll see how this works out. I didn't do a lot of reading this past month. It's been very, very busy. So, but I do have two books to review and tell you about. The first book is a nonfiction, and I just finished this one today, so I kind of, I think I can remember a lot about it. This is the book, and it's called The Lady from the Black Lagoon. And the cover of the book is actually what kind of pulled me in. This is from the public library. This is written by Mallory and it says Hollywood Monsters and the Lost Legacy of Millicent Patrick. This is way out of what I normally would read. It was the cover here that pulled me in, the red and everything. And I really didn't know what this book was about, but I thought, oh, okay, I'll try it. I love this book. It's basically, if any of you are older or you're really into monster movies and everything, you might remember that back in the 1950s, there was a movie called The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I've never seen this movie. I don't watch scary movies, horror movies, because I have nightmares from them. That's why this is really so far out of what I would normally read. But basically, the author, I'll tell you a little bit about her first. Mallory is also, besides an author, she is a screenwriter and a film producer. And she works creative projects that are filled with horror and monsters. And she looks a little bit different. She's got tattoos all over her body, and she doesn't look what you would think of as being your normal author. Excuse me. But she, because of the work that she does, she found out that the woman who actually created the creature from the Black Lagoon was a woman who never received credit for it. And it kind of drew her in, and she went on a quest of trying to find out everything she could about this person. And this person's name was Millicent Patrick. She tells the story of Millicent and her life and her work career and what happened to her, and a lot of information about how things were back in the 40s or 50s and 60s and even into the 70s for women in Hollywood. She goes into a lot of detail about how men took credit for women's work, and also a little bit about the Me Too movement and about what was expected from women back then. Being the age that I am, I can kind of attest to some of that stuff myself, and not in the Hollywood world, but in the everyday work world. I graduated from high school in 1967, so I was working in the late 60s and in the 70s, and there were many ideas for projects and different things that I came up with that, of course, you took to your boss, and then your boss took credit for, that it was his idea. I can't even count how many times that happened, and I got no credit whatsoever for it. Also, back in the late 60s and into the 70s, if you worked in any kind of a place where there were men, it was the standard. Sexual harassment was the standard. It might not be so much that they were pressing themselves on you, but the comments that were made. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but it was real. It was prevalent. And she talks about some of that in this. I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to give this book a 4.8. And it was very easy to read. The author uses a lot of footnotes, and sometimes the footnotes that she puts in were so funny. I would like to meet her. I mean, I think that she would be a really funny person to sit. Her humor at times was just a little bit cheeky, but all in all, I enjoyed this book, and it also makes me want to go and find the movie, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and see it, because I never have. But anyways, good book. And again, that is Mallory O'Meara, The Lady from the Black Lagoon, and I will put that in the show notes. The other book that I read is Danielle Steele. Danielle Steele has been writing books prolifically for many, many years, and she's a very, very good author, and this was a very good book. It's called In His Father's Footsteps, and I don't want to give away too much about the book, but it tells the story of a couple who meet in a German concentration camp, and about how the U.S. comes in and liberates them, and they have gone through hell, as everybody did in those camps, but they've lived where many others have not, and they've lost their entire families, and they decide that to get married and come to the United States. They were given an option because they have nothing left. The girl grew up in Paris. She was lived in Paris, but was a Jew. And the husband, the boy, well, they're young. He's quite a bit older than her, maybe like 8 to 10 years older, I think. He had been raised in Vienna, and his family had been very well-to-do, where the girl had been raised by her mother, and they got by. The man, his family lost everything. The Germans took it all. The Nazis took it all. So neither one of them have nothing, and they go to the United States. They're sponsored by a couple that they have to go there and they have to work for at least 1 year to cover the cost of getting brought over. And it's basically a sweatshop. And the story goes on to tell basically about what happens when they come to the United States, and then it goes on and talks about their son and his life and what he builds. This was a very, very good book. I'm going to give it a 4.8. It was a quick read. Danielle Steele's books usually are. They're very easy to read, and it was very enjoyable. So I would recommend both of these books. They are both brand new books at the library. They have the new stickers on them. Very, very good. So that's pretty much about all I read this month. I don't even think I got to any of my magazines that I'm trying to catch up on, but maybe I'll do better. No, maybe not. Stitch Mania is coming up in May, and that may take all my time, but we'll see. So that's it for now. So I'm just gonna sign off and say happy reading to everybody. Whoops.